Jake Morrison stood in front of the massive alien council chamber and felt his patience finally run out. For 20 years, he had served as Earth's main voice in the Galactic Assembly. For 20 years, he had watched aliens talk and talk while real threats destroyed entire worlds. The chamber was huge, filled with creatures from 47 different planets. Some looked like giant insects with too many legs. Others floated in tanks of blue liquid. A few were made of living crystal that sang when they spoke. Jake had learned to work with all of them, but today was different. Lisa Campbell sat behind him, typing fast on her computer. She was Earth's best scientist and Jake's closest friend in this place. Her job was to track the things that wanted to kill everyone in the galaxy. Right now, those things were called the Devourers, and they were winning. "The human plan is too violent," said Prime Minister Velthar. He was from a planet where bug-like people ruled a small empire. His voice made clicking sounds when he talked. "We must find a peaceful way to stop these Devourers." Jake wanted to laugh, but it would not be polite. The Devourers were not interested in peace talks. They were giant space creatures that ate entire planets. They had already destroyed 5 worlds in the past year. Each world had billions of people living on it. Now those people were dead, and the aliens in this room were still talking about being nice. "Prime Minister," Jake said, keeping his voice calm, "we have been talking for 6 months. In that time, the Devourers ate 3 more planets. 2 billion people are dead. When will talking be enough?" The crystal beings started singing their response. Their music was beautiful, but Jake knew what they were saying. They thought violence was always wrong. They had not fought a war in 3,000 years. They had forgotten what it meant to actually protect their people. Lisa whispered in Jake's ear. "The Devourers just hit another system. Proxima Centauri is gone. All human colonies there are destroyed." Jake felt something cold in his stomach. Proxima Centauri was close to Earth. It was where humans had built their first cities beyond their home planet. 50,000 people had lived there. Now they were all dead, and these aliens were still singing about peace. The water people in their big tanks spoke next. They lived on a planet covered by oceans and spent most of their time thinking deep thoughts. "Surely the humans understand," their speaker said, "that fighting only creates more fighting. We have lived in peace for so long because we choose wisdom over war." Jake looked around the room. Every alien species here had lived in peace for hundreds or thousands of years. They were safe because the galaxy had been safe. But now something dangerous had come from beyond the known stars, and none of them knew what to do except talk. "Dr. Campbell," Jake said quietly, "send the message." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her keyboard. In seconds, every human ship, space station, and colony in the galaxy got the same signal. It was simple and clear. "The assembly has failed. Come home. Bring everything." The aliens in the chamber started making loud noises as their computers translated Jake's words. Some clicked, some sang, some made sounds like whale calls. All of them sounded upset. Jake stood up and walked to the center of the room. His voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. "For 50 years, humans have been part of this assembly. We have shared our technology. We have helped defend your worlds. We have tried to work with all of you to keep the galaxy safe." He pointed to the big screen that showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked where the Devourers had attacked. There were many red dots, and more appeared every day. "We told you the Devourers were coming 5 years ago. We wanted to build defenses. You said no. We wanted to create a fast military force that could respond to attacks. You said it was too violent. We wanted to study the Devourers to find their weaknesses. You said we should try to communicate with them instead." The room was getting louder. Aliens were arguing with each other in dozens of different languages. Some were angry at Jake. Others were angry at their own people. A few looked scared. "Now," Jake continued, "5 worlds are dead. Billions of people have been eaten by creatures that do not care about your peace talks. And you want to spend 6 more months deciding if we should maybe think about possibly doing something that might upset someone." Lisa finished typing and nodded to Jake. All across the galaxy, human ships were starting their engines. Human scientists were packing up their research. Human soldiers were leaving their posts protecting alien worlds. After 50 years of working together, humanity was going home. The human species is leaving the Galactic Assembly, Jake announced. We tried to work with you. We tried to follow your rules. But we will not watch the galaxy burn while you debate how to put out the fire. Prime Minister Velthar made angry, clicking sounds. You cannot just leave. What about your responsibilities? What about the trade agreements? What about the defense treaties? Jake walked toward the exit. Our responsibility is to our own people first. The trade agreements were helping you more than us anyway, and the defense treaties are useless if you will not let us actually defend anyone. Other aliens started shouting questions. Where would humans go? What would happen to the joint projects? Who would maintain the early warning systems that humans had built? Who would operate the fast ships that humans had designed? Jake stopped at the door and turned back one last time. 50 years ago, you called us violent and primitive. You said we needed to learn how to be civilized like you. Today, civilized means dead. We choose to remain primitive and alive. As Jake and Lisa walked out of the chamber, they could hear the aliens starting an emergency debate session. They were probably going to spend the next week arguing about whether humans had the right to leave. By then, the Devourers would have eaten another planet, and all the humans would be safely back in their home system. Outside the station, human ships were already forming up for the long journey home. Jake looked at the stars and wondered if he had just saved his species or doomed the galaxy. Maybe both. But at least now humans would face whatever came next on their own terms. Captain Ryan Burke was drinking coffee on the bridge of his ship when the message came through. The ship was called the Enterprise, and it was one of Earth's best warships. Ryan had been patrolling the space lanes between alien worlds, keeping pirates and raiders away from peaceful traders. His second-in-command, Amy Roberts, looked up from her station with wide eyes. Sir, we just got a Priority 1 message from Earth Command. Ryan read the message twice to make sure he understood. After 15 years of protecting alien trade routes, he was being ordered to come home immediately. Not just him, but every human in space. Amy, start calling back all our patrol ships, he said. We are leaving this sector. Sir, what about the vegan merchants? Without our patrols, the raiders will attack their cargo ships within a week. Ryan had been thinking the same thing. The aliens in this area were good people who had never hurt anyone. But his orders were clear, and after reading the news from the assembly, he understood why. The vegans will have to protect themselves now, he said sadly. We tried to help the galaxy for 50 years. They did not want our help. On the other side of space, Dr. Peter Hayes got the same message. He was working on a research station near Tau Ceti, studying new ways to travel faster than light. Half of his team was human and half was alien. They had been working together for 8 years and had become close friends. Peter called his team together in the main lab. I have bad news, he told them. All humans are being recalled to Earth immediately. His partner, an alien scientist with purple skin and 4 arms, looked confused. But we are so close to a breakthrough with the new engines. Just give us 2 more months. Peter had to destroy all their research files. The new engine technology was partly human-designed, and Earth's government did not want it left behind. As he deleted years of work, Peter wondered if they were making a huge mistake. Colonel Danny Clark was in the middle of stopping a war when he got his recall order. 2 alien species had been fighting over a mining planet for 6 months. Danny's Marines had been keeping them separated while diplomats tried to work out a peace deal. Pack everything, he told his soldiers. We are going home. Sergeant Rick Stone looked at the alien camps on both sides of the valley. Sir, if we leave now, they will start shooting each other again within hours. I know, Danny said, but those are our orders. As the human ships lifted off, Danny could already hear gunfire starting below. Without human peacekeepers to stop them, the 2 alien armies went back to their war. Danny's job had been to protect aliens from each other, but apparently the galaxy did not want that kind of help anymore. On the colony world of New Geneva, Governor Helen Price was facing the biggest challenge of her career. The planet had been home to humans for 20 years. They had built cities, farms, and factories. Now she had to move 200,000 people back to Earth in just a few weeks. "We cannot take everything," she told her assistant, Mayor Frank Davis. "The ships are not big enough." Frank was looking at lists of what they would have to leave behind. Entire factories full of machines that made medicine for alien worlds. Farms that grew food for hungry planets. Schools where human and alien children learned together. "The aliens here have been good neighbors," Frank said. "They helped us when we first arrived. They worked with us to build this place. Now we are just abandoning them." Helen felt terrible about it, but she had her orders. "Maybe we can come back someday. But right now, humanity needs to be together." As human families packed their belongings, their alien neighbors came to say goodbye. Many of them were crying. They had never expected the humans to just leave. Some offered to pay the humans to stay, but money could not change a direct order from Earth. All across the galaxy, similar scenes were happening. Human doctors left alien hospitals, taking their medical knowledge with them. Human engineers shut down the defense systems they had built to protect alien worlds. Human teachers closed the schools where they had been sharing Earth's history and culture. The aliens watched in growing panic as humans dismantled everything they had built together. Communication networks went dark as human technicians pulled out the equipment that made them work. Early warning systems that watched for devourer attacks stopped functioning when their human operators left. Ambassador Jake Morrison sent one final message to the Galactic Assembly before his own ship departed the station. "For 50 years, humanity tried to be a good member of this community. We shared our technology, our knowledge, and our blood to keep the galaxy safe. In return, we were called warmongers and told to be more civilized." He looked directly at the camera that would broadcast his words to every alien government. "Today, you are getting your wish. Humanity is removing its uncivilized influence from galactic affairs. You now have the peace you wanted. We hope you can keep it." As the last human transport ships gathered at the edge of the galaxy, heading for Earth, the aliens finally understood what they were losing. Without human ships, the patrol routes that kept pirates away from trade lanes were empty. Without human soldiers, the peacekeeping missions that stopped small wars from becoming big ones had no one to do them. Without human scientists, the research projects that had been making life better across the galaxy came to a stop. Without human engineers, the defense systems that protected entire planets began breaking down with no one to fix them. Captain Ryan Burke looked back at the alien systems growing smaller behind his ship. His crew was quiet. They all knew they were leaving friends behind, and they all wondered if those friends would survive what was coming. "Course set for Earth, sir," reported his navigation officer. "Take us home," Ryan said. Behind them, the galaxy was already becoming a more dangerous place. 6 months after the humans left, the galaxy learned what peace really cost. Admiral Carl Johnson stood in the new command center that Earth had built in orbit around their home planet. Banks of screens showed what was happening in the rest of the galaxy, and none of it was good. "The Altair system just went dark," reported Lieutenant Grace Wilson. She was young but smart, and her job was to track the devourer attacks that were happening more and more often. "That makes 7 systems this month." Carl had been fighting in space for 30 years, but he had never seen anything like this. Without human early warning networks, the aliens could not tell where the devourers would attack next. Without human, rapid response fleets, they could not get help to planets under attack fast enough to save anyone. On Earth, President Nathan Brooks was reading reports that made him feel sick. Each report told the same story. Aliens calling for help, aliens offering anything they had for human protection, aliens dying while waiting for someone to save them. "They are begging us to come back," said General Susan Clark. She had been planning Earth's defenses while the rest of the galaxy fell apart. "The Crystalline Collective offered us 3 entire star systems if we will just send 1 battle fleet to help them." Nathan looked at the holographic map that showed devourer movements. Red zones marked where the creatures had already attacked. Yellow zones showed where they were heading next. The red zones were getting bigger every day. "What about our own defenses?" Nathan asked. "Growing stronger," Susan replied. "Without having to protect alien worlds, we have been able to focus all Our resources on defending Earth and our closest colonies. We now have the strongest military in human history. Communications Officer Tony Miller raised his hand. Sir, we are getting more emergency calls. The Zephyrian homeworld is under attack. Prime Minister Velthar is personally requesting immediate assistance. Nathan remembered Velthar from the assembly recordings. He was the bug-like alien who had called humans too violent just 6 months ago. Now he was calling for the violent humans to save his people. What is our response? Tony asked. The same as always, Nathan said sadly. We wish them luck, but humanity cannot help. Dr. Emma Stone was studying the Devourer attacks from her lab on Earth. As the planet's best expert on alien life forms, she had been trying to understand why the creatures were so successful now when they had been contained before. I think I know what changed, she told the President's Science Council. The Devourers learn from every battle. When they fought humans, our tactics were unpredictable. We would sacrifice ships to save planets, or abandon planets to save fleets. The Devourers could not figure out our patterns. She pulled up battle reports from before the human withdrawal. But alien tactics are very different. They always try to save everyone. They never retreat. They always use the same formations. The Devourers have learned to counter everything the aliens do. General Clark leaned forward. So the aliens are actually helping the Devourers get stronger? Exactly, Emma replied. Every battle teaches the Devourers how to fight aliens better. But they have never learned how to fight humans because we stopped fighting them. The irony was bitter. The same human unpredictability that aliens had called chaotic and wrong was exactly what the galaxy needed to survive. Human willingness to make hard choices, to sacrifice some to save many, to retreat when necessary and attack when possible. These were the tools that could stop the Devourers. Meanwhile, in human space, life was actually getting better. Without having to follow alien rules about what technology was too dangerous to develop, human scientists were making amazing breakthroughs. New weapons that could destroy Devourer ships in one hit, faster engines that could outrun anything in the galaxy, better shields that could protect entire planets. Captain Ryan Burke was testing one of the new ships near Jupiter. The vessel was twice as fast as anything humans had built while they were in the assembly, and its weapons could punch through armor that had been considered unbreakable. It is amazing what we can build when we do not have to ask permission, said his engineer, Lieutenant Mike Foster. Ryan agreed, but he also felt guilty. Every day, his communications officer intercepted alien distress calls, families trapped, undying worlds, children separated from their parents during evacuations, entire species facing extinction while humans built better toys in safety. Sir, called Communications Officer Kelly Brown, we are picking up a transmission from a refugee fleet. They are asking if they can enter human space. Ryan checked his orders. They were clear. No aliens were allowed in human territory for any reason. Earth's leaders were afraid that helping refugees would drag humanity back into galactic politics. Tell them we cannot help, Ryan said. Direct them to the nearest safe alien system. Sir, there are no safe alien systems anymore. The Devourers have overrun everything within 50 light-years of here. Ryan closed his eyes and tried not to think about the families in those refugee ships. They were probably good people who had never hurt anyone. But his job was to protect humanity, not the galaxy. Back on Earth, President Brooks was facing the hardest decision of his life. Intelligence reports showed that the Devourers were not just randomly attacking anymore. They were moving in a pattern, working their way toward the center of the galaxy, toward Earth. How long do we have? He asked his military advisors. At their current rate of expansion, maybe 2 years, General Clark replied. But if they keep learning from their battles with aliens, they will get faster and stronger, maybe less than 1 year. The room was quiet as everyone understood what that meant. Earth's defenses were powerful, but they had never been tested against the full force of a Devourer swarm. If the creatures made it to human space, there would be nowhere left to run. There is another option, said Admiral Johnson quietly. We could intervene now while there are still alien fleets left to help us. If we work together, we might be able to stop the Devourers before they reach us." "And if we lose?" the president asked. "Then we lose anyway, but we also lose all the alien allies who might have helped us." Nathan looked around the room at his advisors. These were the smartest, most experienced people humanity had. They had spent months planning for this moment, and their conclusion was simple. Humanity could stay safe and alone and probably die, or risk everything to save aliens who had rejected them and maybe live. "Let me think about it," Nathan said. Outside, his window. Earth looked peaceful and beautiful, but somewhere in the darkness between stars, creatures that wanted to eat every living thing in the galaxy were getting closer every day. 1 year after humanity left the Galactic Assembly, the universe was dying. Ambassador Jake Morrison sat in his new office on Earth, reading reports that would have seemed impossible just months before. Entire alien civilizations were extinct. Billions of people had been consumed by the Devourers. The proud alien species that had lectured humans about violence were now begging for help from anyone who would listen. Chen Wei knocked on Jake's door and entered without waiting for permission. Chen had been working with alien colonies near human space before the withdrawal, and now he served as Earth's contact with refugee groups. His face was tired and sad. "You need to see this," Chen said, placing a small device on Jake's desk. The device projected a hologram of Prime Minister Velthar, but he looked nothing like the confident leader who had dismissed human concerns in the assembly. His shiny bug-like shell was cracked and dirty. One of his arms was missing, his voice was weak and desperate. "Ambassador Morrison," the recording began, "I speak for what remains of the Zephyrian people. Our homeworld is gone. Our colonies are destroyed. 2 million survivors are all that is left of a civilization that once numbered in the billions." Jake had seen many alien leaders beg for help in the past year, but something about Velthar's message was different. This was not just a request for military aid. This was the admission of a broken leader who finally understood how wrong he had been. "We called you violent," Velthar continued. "We said humans were too aggressive, too quick to fight. We thought peace was always better than war. We were fools. The Devourers do not care about our peaceful intentions. They see only food. You tried to warn us and we would not listen." The hologram flickered as Velthar struggled to continue speaking. "I do not ask for forgiveness. I do not ask for rescue. I ask only that you remember us as a lesson. Sometimes violence is the only answer to violence. Sometimes the willingness to fight is what keeps peace possible." Chen turned off the recording. "He sent this 3 days ago. Yesterday we detected Devourer signals in his sector. His refugee fleet is probably gone now." Jake stared at his desk and said nothing. Velthar had been annoying and stubborn, but he had genuinely believed that peace was always the right answer. Learning the truth had cost him his entire species. Dr. Sarah Martinez entered the office carrying a data pad full of statistics that made for grim reading. As Earth's chief analyst, her job was to track how fast the galaxy was dying. "Current population estimates," she said, sitting down heavily. "The galaxy has lost 60% of its sapient life in the past year. The Etherian homeworld fell. Last week, 3 billion dead. The Aquatic Confederacy is down to their last 3 colony worlds. The Crystalline Collective exists only as refugees now." Jake looked at the numbers but could barely understand them. 60% of all intelligent life in the galaxy, gone in 1 year. It was genocide on a scale that had never happened before. "How long until they reach us?" Jake asked. "The Devourers are moving faster now," Sarah replied. "They have learned to coordinate their attacks. Instead of random raids, they are conducting systematic sweeps. At this rate, they will reach the outer edges of human space in 6 months." On the other side of Earth, President Brooks was meeting with his military commanders. The news from the galaxy was bad, but the news from Earth's defenses was surprisingly good. General Clark showed him the latest reports from human shipyards. "We have built more warships in the past year than in the previous 10 years combined. Our new plasma weapons can destroy Devourer bioships with single shots. Our shield technology can protect entire star systems. Admiral Johnson added his own assessment. Without having to spread our forces across the galaxy, we have concentrated everything around Earth and our core colonies. The Sol system is now the most heavily defended location in galactic history. But the president was not thinking just about defense. What about offense? Could we actually beat the Devourers if we attacked them? The room went quiet. It was the question everyone had been thinking, but no one wanted to ask. Maybe, General Clark said slowly. Our new technology is untested against a full Devourer swarm, but our computer models suggest we would have a good chance. The problem is that we would have to leave human space to do it. If we lose, Earth would be defenseless. Captain Ryan Burke was thinking about the same problem as he patrolled the edge of human territory. His ship, the Defiance, was one of the new super destroyers that Earth had built during their isolation. It was faster and more powerful than anything in the galaxy. His communications officer, Lieutenant Kelly Brown, was monitoring alien distress calls as usual. But today was different. Today the calls were not just from random refugee fleets. They were from the governments of entire species. Sir, we are receiving a direct transmission from the Etherian High Council, Kelly reported. They are formally requesting sanctuary in human space. Ryan knew what that meant. The Etherians were offering to become human subjects in exchange for protection. A species that had ruled parts of the galaxy for thousands of years was willing to give up their independence just to survive. What are our orders? Ryan asked, though he already knew the answer. Standard response, sir. We cannot accept refugees. Ryan hated giving that answer, but he understood why it was necessary. Every refugee fleet that entered human space was another mouth to feed, another ship to protect, another potential security risk. Earth's leaders had decided that humanity's survival came first, but the decision was getting harder to defend. Lieutenant Grace Wilson had been tracking refugee movements, and her reports were heartbreaking. Entire families floating in space because their planets had been destroyed. Children separated from their parents during evacuations. Old people dying in crowded refugee ships because there was no medicine. Sir, Grace said quietly, some of these refugee fleets have been asking for passage through human space to reach safe zones. They are not asking to stay, just to travel through our territory to escape the Devourers. And the answer is still no, Ryan replied. If we let them pass through, word will spread. Soon, every refugee in the galaxy will be trying to use human space as a highway. We cannot risk it. Back on Earth, President Brooks was reading similar reports and struggling with the same moral questions. Every day brought new evidence that humanity could save the galaxy if they chose to act. Every day also brought new evidence that acting would put human lives at risk. His science advisor, Dr. Emma Stone, had developed computer models that showed exactly how a human intervention might work. We could coordinate with the remaining alien fleets, she explained. Our technology combined with their numbers might be enough to stop the Devourers. And if we are wrong, the president asked, then humanity dies along with everyone else. But sir, if we do nothing, we might die anyway. The Devourers are not going to stop at the edge of human space. Eventually, they will come for us too. The president looked out his window at the lights of Earth's cities. Somewhere up there, human families were living peaceful lives, trusting their government to keep them safe. Did he have the right to risk those lives to save aliens who had rejected humanity just 1 year ago? The choice was coming soon. Intelligence reports suggested that the Devourers would begin their final push toward human space within weeks. After that, it would be too late to save anyone. Humanity had wanted to be left alone. Now they were about to find out if alone was strong enough to survive. The decision came when Earth's long-range sensors detected something that changed everything. A massive Devourer swarm, bigger than any seen before, was moving directly toward the Sol system. It was not just another random attack. It was a coordinated assault aimed at humanity's heart. President Brooks called an emergency meeting with every important leader on Earth. The room was packed with generals, admirals, scientists, and politicians. Everyone knew that the next few hours would determine whether humanity survived or joined the long list of extinct species. The super swarm will reach Proxima Centauri in 3 days, reported Admiral Johnson. Our closest neighbor system. If they take it, they will have a staging ground for attacks on Earth itself. General Clark activated a holographic display showing the size of the approaching threat. The swarm was enormous, hundreds of bioships, working together like a single organism. It was larger than anything the Devourers had used against the aliens. They have been saving their strength, Dr. Emma Stone realized. All those attacks on alien worlds were not just about feeding. They were learning, building up their forces, getting ready for this moment. President Brooks looked around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders. Options? We can defend Earth, General Clark said. Our planetary shields and orbital weapons might be enough to stop them, but if they get through, there is nowhere to retreat. Or, Admiral Johnson added quietly, we can attack them before they reach us. Take the fight to them while we still have room to maneuver. The room was silent as everyone considered what that meant. Attacking would require sending most of Earth's fleet away from home. If the attack failed, Earth would be defenseless against whatever Devourers were left. Dr. Lisa Campbell, who had been working on new weapons since the withdrawal, stood up with a proposal that surprised everyone. There is a third option. We could call for help. From who? Someone asked. There are barely any alien fleets left. From the refugees, Lisa replied. Scattered across the galaxy are millions of alien survivors. Most of their military ships are gone, but they still have civilian vessels, cargo haulers, even old civilian ships that could be armed. If we offered them sanctuary in exchange for help, President Brooks thought about it. For a year, humanity had refused to help anyone. Now they were considering asking for help themselves. It felt like admitting failure, but it might be the only way to survive. How many ships could we gather? He asked. Chen Wei, who had been tracking refugee movements, checked his data. Maybe 10,000 vessels of various sizes. Not much firepower individually, but in large numbers. A swarm to fight a swarm, Admiral Johnson realized. It could work. The president made his decision. Send out the call. Any alien ship that helps us fight the Devourers will be granted permanent sanctuary in human space. Full citizenship, full protection, equal rights. Within hours, the message was broadcast across the galaxy. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Refugee fleets that had been hiding in asteroid fields suddenly revealed themselves. Merchant ships that had been converted to refugee transports began installing whatever weapons they could find. Even luxury yachts owned by alien nobles joined the gathering fleet. Captain Ryan Burke found himself commanding not just human warships, but a mixed fleet of thousands of vessels from dozens of species. His communications officer, Kelly Brown, was working overtime, trying to coordinate between ships that did not even speak the same language. Sir, the Zephyrian cargo haulers want to know if they should load their ships with explosives and ram the Devourers, Kelly reported. Ryan was shocked. The Zephyrians had always been peaceful traders. Now they were volunteering for suicide attacks. Tell them we have better uses for their ships. We need them alive. All across human space, similar scenes were playing out. Crystalline beings were using their natural abilities to enhance communication networks. Aquatic aliens were modifying torpedo designs to work in the vacuum of space. Even the philosophical Etherians were contributing by using their mental abilities to coordinate fleet movements. Dr. Sarah Martinez was watching it all from Earth's command center and trying to understand how they had gone from galactic outcasts to the center of the largest military alliance in history. A year ago, they hated us, she told Jake Morrison, who was helping coordinate diplomatic aspects of the alliance. They never hated us, Jake replied. They were afraid of us. We represented something they did not understand, the willingness to fight for what we believe in. Now that they need that willingness, they finally see its value. The battle began when the Devourer superswarm reached the edge of human space. Captain Ryan Burke led the initial attack with his human ships, using new weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Plasma cannons that could burn through Devourer bioarmor, quantum torpedoes that could destroy multiple targets at once, shield technology that could protect entire formations of ships. But the Devourers were ready for advanced technology. They had learned to adapt to new weapons by studying alien battles. What they had not learned to handle was the human approach to warfare. All ships, execute Pattern Delta, Ryan commanded over the fleet communication system. Pattern Delta was pure human strategy, organized chaos. Instead of maintaining neat formations like alien fleets always did, the human ships scattered in seemingly random directions. Some ships retreated while others advanced. Some focused on big targets while others hit small ones. To alien observers it looked like panic. To the Devourers it was incomprehensible. The bioships tried to adapt to the human tactics, but every time they learned one pattern, the humans switched to something completely different. Meanwhile, the alien refugee ships were following human orders without question, trusting their protectors to know what they were doing. Lieutenant Grace Wilson was tracking the battle from her station on Earth. "Sir, the Devourers are starting to retreat." Admiral Johnson could hardly believe it. Retreat? Devourers do not retreat. But that is exactly what was happening. For the first time in recorded history, the Devourers had encountered an enemy they could not adapt to quickly enough. Human unpredictability, combined with overwhelming numbers of Allied ships, was breaking their coordination. Dr. Emma Stone was watching the bioships on her sensors and realized something important. They are not just retreating, they are sending signals to other swarms across the galaxy. They are telling them to stay away from this area. The implications were huge. The Devourers were not mindless monsters. They were intelligent enough to recognize a superior enemy and smart enough to avoid further losses. By defeating the super swarm, humanity had not just saved Earth. They had convinced the Devourers that this part of space was too dangerous to attack. In the aftermath of the battle, President Brooks addressed not just humanity, but every species that had participated in the fight. The Galactic Assembly failed because it tried to preserve peace by avoiding conflict. Today we have learned that sometimes peace can only be preserved by those willing to fight for it. The response from across the galaxy was immediate. Every surviving alien government formally requested membership in what they called the Terran Defense Confederation. They wanted not just protection, but partnership with the species that had finally stopped the Devourer threat. Ambassador Jake Morrison found himself back in a position of galactic leadership, but this time on humanity's terms. The new Confederation operated on principles the old Assembly had rejected: quick decisions, military readiness, and the understanding that some problems could only be solved with force. As he stood in the command center of New Geneva Station, hastily built to serve as the Confederation's headquarters, Jake reflected on how much had changed. A year ago, the galaxy had watched in horror as humans abandoned the Assembly. Today, that abandonment had forced humanity to become exactly what the galaxy needed. The Devourer threat still existed in the dark spaces beyond known civilization, but for the first time in galactic history, civilized space had protectors who understood that some enemies could only be stopped by superior force. The galaxy had learned at the cost of billions of lives that humanity's aggressive nature was not a flaw to be corrected, but a strength to be embraced. The Assembly's greatest failure had not been in rejecting humanity's proposals. It had been in failing to understand that in a universe full of existential threats, the capacity for controlled violence was not barbarism. It was civilization's ultimate expression of the will to survive. Humanity had proven that sometimes being called monsters by those you protect is the price of keeping them alive.